Hey, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the Hanging On to Hope podcast.
I'm Brenda J.
And I'm Karen Wonder.
And we are HangingOnToHope.org.
This podcast is intended as educational and is not psychological or medical advice. Always consult a professional when needed, and we disclaim any liability in connection with the instruction, information, or advice given.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hanging On to Hope podcast. This is Brenda J. Today, we have Lori Jones on the podcast. Lori is a licensed professional counselor at Inspired Counseling. She has worked in the counseling field for over 20 years, helping individuals get free from addictions, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, PTSD, and healing marriages. Lori has extensive training in EMDR and trauma therapy to help individuals find the root of their problems. She is also an abuse survivor. Welcome to the show, Lori.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Karen and Brenda. I'm really honored to be here.
Yes, we're so glad that you're here.
Yes, we are. Continuing with part 2 of EMDR therapy with Lori Jones. And so the DBTs, you were saying that even abuse victims have anger and don't know how to, because I feel like I just kind of always still feel like I walk around on eggshells and take the more freeze position. But you're saying some people do the opposite. And so you have to work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you first start, you might swing like a pendulum from freeze to just like attack mode. But I applaud that because at least you're moving, you know? Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah. And then you can learn to come and regulate in the middle and say what you mean, but don't say it mean in a healthy way.
Oh, say what you mean, but don't say it mean in a healthy way. That's good.
I know.
I
know. I didn't make that up. That's from Al-Anon, but I use a lot of tricks from the program and things I've learned along the way, obviously.
What are some other tricks? Any other good little tricks? I love that.
Yeah. Like some things are like, how important is it? Like how important are certain things? Some things are important and then others aren't as. So we have to evaluate that and like clean up my side of the street. That's all you can do is your side of the street.
Yeah.
You're in relationships. You're only able, to take care of your own side of the street.
Side of the street.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not responsible for other people's side of the street.
Yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good too. I like that.
So you say there are phases of EMDR. Did you want to?
Yeah, there's 8 phases. So in the 3rd phase is when we're literally starting to write out like the targets of what we're going to be working on. And usually we're going to focus on the 5 targets like you did as well. And 5 is a good number to start with. And then I'll sometimes branch out depending on where we need to go in the therapy. And I'll just trust the Holy Spirit to guide me with different direction. Right. If I'm like, oh no, we need to go to the right, then we switch. And then the next is the processing phase. And that's when you're actually following the lights and you're processing the memories. And during that phase, people get worried that they have to share everything that they're seeing because you kind of have like video flashes of memories and you don't have to talk about those flashes. You can just have them. And that's healing for you. You don't have to express them all verbally.
Okay.
So some people, because some people have like early childhood memories of like sexual abuse at age 2 and 3, and it's nonverbal. They may not be able to even speak. So I just let them process, and I can see that they're emotional and they're processing. And then we go into the installation phase. So I let them go from like a high SUDS, which is their emotional response, down to a low. And then once they get to a low response level, I can see a breakthrough when they're talking. Literally, they will say, oh, I see that my dad, let's say the dad was the abuser. I see that my dad might have been abused by his father. And they suddenly have a cognitive thought. Because before that, it's all this emotional stuff that's coming out. And then all of a sudden they have like a breakthrough. So as soon as they have a breakthrough, we go back to the original memory. We ask them how emotionally responsive they are now. And then we ask them how true their negative cognition was. And then we switch it to their positive. Is this positive cognition still true for you? And then we install the positive cognition into that old memory. So that's where it all happens. So the new cognition now is replacing that old cognition. Some of those old cognitions might be like, I'm worthless, I'm no good, I deserve to be treated this way. It might be, I'm not safe. There's a lot of it. Some of them are around power and control. I can't take care of myself. And then the positive cognition would be, I am safe. I can get to safety. I can take care of myself. I am worthy. I am worth being heard. Those are some of the ones I'm just coming to mind right now. So then we're going to install the positive so that when we think of that old memory now, it's going to automatically pull up that positive cognition.
So interesting. That word.
I know. And then we do the body scan, which is the next part, which is phase 6. And we check where that is in the body. Because sometimes it might be stuck in the shoulders or stuck in the throat. Like if somebody can't speak, it might be stuck right here in their chest or in their throat. And then we process the positive cognition on the body, and it processes it out sometimes, and it happens really quickly. And then we do closure, and then we reevaluate. Is phase 8 is when we go back and do it again. So I am sometimes really surprised at how fast individuals can process through things.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember when I first went in and I was doing all the interviews and all the questions they asked. I remember really thinking super negatively about myself. But then the longer that I went through that there, it started to just go away. I couldn't even explain it, how it did or why it did. So
yeah,
quite interesting. But it definitely worked. It definitely was life-changing.
Yep. And I think sometimes people will get through it, the original 5 traumas, and then they might need to come back in a year and say, I'm feeling kind of stuck in these areas. And then it can be just a quick shift of their cognitions. Mm-hmm.
And so at the beginning, you did talk about how would somebody know that they need it? Like, what are some specific signs that someone would know they need EMDR? Or is it just pretty much everybody's had trauma and they should do it?
I think everybody should do it. But if you're having if you're having specific trauma reactions to individuals, like startle responses, intrusive thoughts of I'm not good enough, or flashbacks, nightmares, those are some severe PTSD traits. And if you're having like a lot of severe PTSD or CPTSD, then I do believe, yes, it's the most effective treatment that I found. I'm also a trained CBT therapist, cognitive behavioral therapy, trauma-informed therapist. And I use CBT with individuals that might not have as deep of traumas. If there is a lot of significant trauma that individuals can't talk about and it's nonverbal, then I'm definitely going to use EMDR as a therapy for them.
Okay. Did you have any questions, Karen? She's like processing it all.
Yeah.
She did it too.
Oh my gosh. You did? Okay.
Yeah, I did a couple times. And then I went to because I went through yoga teacher training. My yoga teacher did one with horses. So it was EMDR with horses. It was so interesting. I didn't get into the pen and be with the horses, but it was really interesting.
Oh, that's really
did
cool.
you try the DNMS too?
Yeah, I only did that though once or twice. Yeah.
I just did the EMDR too. So we met at Celebrate Recovery, and you're part of the leadership there. Did you want to talk about the importance of a group like Celebrate Recovery to help in the healing process?
Absolutely. So I think these negative cognitions, and you're no longer have them attached in your body, we have to practice these positive cognitions every day, really. And Celebrate Recovery is a 12-step based program that is, it's Christian based, but it blends the 12 steps. And so it helps individuals get over their hurts, habits, and hangups. And it promotes a daily practice and support community. So individuals can go to groups, they can hear testimonies where other people are talking about their traumas. So it's not just for addicts and alcoholics. It's for codependents. It's for sex addicts. It's for COSA, which is codependent to sex addicts. It's also for anger management, individuals that are recovering narcissists. We have several of those in our group as well. So it's for like everyone, and it's a weekly support group. And what a sponsor would do is help you through those 12 steps. So why this is important is because we need an ongoing healing and recovery community around us. So not only do you need like a therapist to kind of like jump you through some of the major hoops of trauma, but then how do you practice this out in your daily life? What do you do every day with it when you're feeling triggered at work and you feel triggered in every relationship you're in and you're angry at everyone, or you're frozen, you're having feelings and you want to share your feelings, but you can't? So those are all the areas where you go to these meetings and you can hear others talking about how they have gotten help through this and what language that they use, words that they use, and then you can use them as role models. You can call them as accountability partners or sponsors. So those are some of the things about Celebrate Recovery that I love. And yes, I'm in leadership. I have helped start it in many different churches, and most recently at Impact Church. This is our 6th year. We're right now going into our 6th year of Celebrate Recovery at Impact Church in Scottsdale.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So as a Celebrate Recovery leader, some of the things we end up doing is, the verse where it says we go directly to the person because we're trying not to triangulate, right? So we go directly to the person, share with them if they have offended us. But then in the Bible, it says if they don't respond to that, then we can bring a group of people to them, or one other person and then a group. So this is what we do in Celebrate Recovery. So if the abuse victim, or if the individual who was abused is having a hard time standing up for themselves, their sponsor or their accountability would go with them, or maybe they don't want to be there at all. And then so their sponsor or accountability partner would go and talk with that individual and just say, hey, when you touched her on the shoulder, which that could be, it's a trauma reaction, like I had some abuse too as a child. And I mean, like I feel that way too. Like I don't want to be touched unless I'm asked or unless it's a really close friend.
Right.
So I think
totally
that, we need to be respected as individuals and women or men, and like to be asked if we can be touched, or even like a man who will sit next to you and then touch you on the knee, for example. So we have in many instances confronted individuals in our group to keep the group safe.
Yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we've really worked hard at this because we want to do it in a loving, gentle way. And a lot of times those individuals don't even realize that they're doing it.
Right. Because that's some people's form of communication, right? The way that they, like some people are just more touchy in their communication. But for me, is that from being abused that I just don't, freaks me out completely.
Yeah. So that startle response is what we would deal with in EMDR, that startle response right there, because that's like a residual. But also, I mean, we should be able to say, hey, don't touch me. We need to be able to open up and speak out and say something. Does that make sense? Like we need to not be in freeze.
Yeah. I think it's just with people I don't know though. If they touch me, if I know them, it's not as bothersome, or, if we're close or something, that's different. And I know that I trust them, I feel safe.
There's even people that might get a creepy feeling from, and I'm like, ooh, no, I don't want to be touched. So really respecting someone's boundary is really important, of no touch. So I think that EMDR, really bringing it in, makes such a difference because it just regulates the brain to where the left and the right brain can speak to each other. So the rational side and the emotional side can now communicate. I'm having an emotional feeling. It doesn't like misfire the whole brain to where I cannot think anymore. It actually regulates and back and forth. And that's part of that mindfulness that we do in DBT, that the individual learns how to communicate and how to use their voice and their actions to set boundaries with others in order to have healthy relationships.
Yeah, I've heard it said it's like filing it away, like in a filing cabinet or something like that traumatic memory. Is that kind of accurate?
Yeah, it is. Well, the traumatic memory is really, it's right on the surface, and it's like a wound that's just like, it's agitated all the time and hurting you and hurting everything around you, unless you've dissociated it completely. And I've worked with individuals that it's just totally shut down and dissociated, where the individual has gone asleep. And part of EMDR is we do the DES scale. So we're checking to see how dissociated the individuals are. And it is kind of interesting because I think abuse victims do dissociate to stay with their abuser.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Oh,
a way to cope.
absolutely.
Yeah. They can't survive otherwise.
It was weird though. When I did the assessment, he didn't think I was dissociated. So that was good. But maybe that was because that was afterwards, quite a bit after. I didn't do it right away after.
It's things like, do you buy clothes you don't realize you bought? Do you go places and then suddenly you're there and you're like, how did I get here? I don't remember even driving here.
Okay. Yeah. Because
I do that all the time.
You do?
I mean, I don't remember going by here, especially when I'd be going to work. I'd be like, how did I get to this already?
Well,
I don't remember.
You're more dissociated than me then. Wow.
I do that while I'm driving. I think I just space out. And then I'm like,
where am I going?
3 miles and didn't even realize it.
I did pass.
Or sometimes, like you're watching a show and all of a sudden you're like, you forgot what just happened. Like you have to rewind it. Like you're just out, you're sort of in a fantasy land. So it's like this feeling of derealization. And that's like individuals that are really dissociated. And I know in my marriage, I had to go to sleep in order to stay. And so even though there might, like I said, I didn't notice the warning signs. And even as a therapist, you would think, hey, why didn't I realize those things? Well, because I just pushed them under the rug, because that's what my family did growing up. Like I learned that really well. Don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. So you don't trust your gut feelings. You don't feel things. Heck no. Why would you feel anything? You don't trust yourself. You don't talk about it so I wouldn't talk about it with friends. So you just sweep everything under the rug that's happening and you just think, well, this is normal. Keep going about life. And you're sort of derealized from yourself in a sense. And so I'm trying to work now with individuals, trying to get them grounded, feeling their fingers, feeling their toes in the room around them. So we talk a lot about being grounded and being in the moment.
So in the last podcast we did, she talked about dissociation as just almost avoiding like doing anything else than dealing with your emotions. So that's 2 different types of dissociation is what I'm getting out of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is what they're doing. Like you could dissociate in a slight way, like you could go play tennis or basketball or workaholism or alcoholism. You could be dissociating by avoiding. Right. But then there's dissociation, a sexual abuse or a physical abuse, like someone who is in a long-term physical abusive situation has to leave their body in order to survive.
Right.
So that is dissociation, leaving.
So that's what I did every time then, pretty much.
Yes.
Okay.
You honestly had to leave your body in order to live through that. So that's with abuse victims is coming back in. But we don't ask them to come back in yet. It's kind of too painful almost. So we're doing EMDR, DBT. Well, you start with DBT with that individual and they have to practice their skills for a pretty long time to where I trust that they feel safe. Yeah. Then get them into one body.
That's what now that you're saying it all, I'm like, yeah, we did do all that. Okay.
Yep. And then getting them into one self to where I really am able to process with one person. Like feeling your fingers is one way of knowing, like a depersonalized individual would not feel their fingers or their toes.
Oh.
Yeah. And so sometimes if you notice people who are in therapy might carry around like a little stuffed animal or something like that to help them ground to the place where they are. So I think grounding is really important. And, like learning how to be in your body so that you know how you feel. Because otherwise you don't even know how to set a boundary because you don't even know how you feel yet.
Yeah, this is all deep. I just remember looking at myself in the mirror and like not even connecting with my body, like at all. Like it took so long. Like I still don't, I'm starting to a little bit. It takes a lot longer than people think. I mean, I think the EMDR is quick, and I like that because I didn't realize it worked, and it worked. That's why I like that a lot. But everything else seems like, okay, this is not connecting yet. But it's so great that you're out there and you're helping trauma victims, and we just appreciate you. We're so grateful for you.
Yeah, thanks for being on our podcast. Do you have any resources you'd want to recommend to our listeners that have been through trauma?
I would recommend reaching out to noabuse.org if they need to get out of an abusive situation, like right away, or other organizations like Chrysalis if it's local. Also, if individuals are suicidal right now or feeling like harming themselves, they can text 988 right now and get help anywhere, and a counselor will respond back to you right away. So those are some outliers, because I know sometimes abuse victims feel like there's no other way out. So we want to extend help and hope for them. And I know you guys are the best because you guys are hanging on to hope all the time. And then I love that. And then also I have a few clients that I take on, and it would have to be a good match and everything, but inspiredcounselingaz.com. And I also have an Instagram account, Inspired Counseling AZ. So if individuals want to follow me on Instagram, and I have a link tree on there with resources. But I would recommend just getting in touch with a licensed counselor or calling their local church to try to get recommendations from the church, but to be careful at the church to make sure that they feel right about it, because I don't want them to get stuck in another type of abusive situation. So I appreciate you guys.
Well, thank you for listening to our podcast. What's one of your most memorable ones? Which one did you really like? Any of them?
Let me think. No, I listened to them all. So I mean, I like them all. So they're all blending together right now. So I loved them. I mean, I really like the Sheila Gregoire and some of the information on the church and how the sexual abuse and the misogynistic male is dominant in the church and how it just perpetuates abuse. So I just really like your message that you guys are putting out there with that, because we have to tell women that they don't have to follow that model anymore, and that they can get out and they can get free.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think there's sexual abuse, but then there's also, like, I was married to a narcissist, so I was actually sexually abused as well. And I didn't realize that until later, because I had to do whatever he told me to do. I thought I did. I thought I did because he told me that's what the Bible said.
Yeah. It was spiritual abuse too. So that's why your very core was abuse, because you believed that. You believed all those lies.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. My ex used to quote scripture like, well, the Bible says your body belongs to me.
Oh my gosh.
It just meant,
so
used that way.
So much trauma around all of that. That's why I like to weave in all the Elijah House Ministry training so that we can just reinstall that secure Father that we have, because we are daughters of the King, of the Most High God, and He wants the best for us, and He loves us, and He would never allow our bodies to be violated or abused in any way.
Right.
All right. Well, is there anything else you wanted to add, or are we?
No, I think that's good. I mean, I really appreciate all that you guys do. You guys are bringing hope, and I just pray that your reach is even bigger than it is currently, and that you guys get your word out there more, that there is freedom.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you guys. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
You know, they're all abused. All the perpetrators have been abused.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just a continuation of the trauma. The bullying, we're all bullied.
Yeah, they say that about bullies. They come from abusive homes.
Yeah. That's why they're acting out.
So it goes way deeper, way deeper.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in to Hanging On to Hope. Check out our website, hangingontohope.org. There are resources on there, and if you would like to donate or volunteer, you can do that through our website. We are a brand new nonprofit, so we appreciate any and all support. And we thank you for listening. And until next time, keep hanging on to hope. We are evidence that there is hope and healing for you, and our passion is to help you find it too. So thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening, everyone.